Go get this $1,000 out for the fans, man. Really, I'm gonna take out 20,000, man. Just to show people, you feel me? I'm on a whole different level with this, man. I take this serious, man. So you can't put me in the same category as the others.
Now, in this video, we're gonna go over a very twisted case. It involves a rapper by the name of Young QC who, get ready for it, killed his mother for money, took that money and flexed it on social media. He also used that money to buy designer clothes, Jordans, copious amounts of weed, and some other things. Let's not waste any time and let's actually go over this sick case. On September 2nd, 2012, at approximately 5 a.m., Yolanda Holmes, 45 years old, was found dead in her apartment located in the block of West Montrose Avenue in Chicago. Yolanda was found with multiple gunshot wounds to the head and multiple stab wounds to her body. Her death was quickly ruled as a homicide by both the medical examiner's office and the police. Yolanda's death came as a surprise to her community and it left a lot of people shook. After all, she was a mother and a local entrepreneur who had been running her own salon in her community for about 16 years up until the point she got killed. Nappy Head Salon was the name of it, and business was booming for Yolanda. Not only was she a successful businesswoman, but she also used her salon to host community events for the children in the neighborhood, and she frequently hosted birthday parties for her staff. Yolanda was a hard-working woman who focused on building her business, was a blessing to her community, she loved helping people, and generally just had a giving spirit. So the question was, how exactly could this happened? The police, of course, started investigating this crime right away, and unfortunately, not much was discovered in the months after her death. Even 9 months into Yolanda's death, things were still fairly quiet. Yolanda's family and friends were starting to grow impatient because they felt like her murder was being neglected and was not a priority to the Chicago Police Department at all. Now, that was until December 2013, because that's when the police finally caught on to the person who was responsible for the death of Yolanda Holmes. On December 22, 2013, Kwame Wilson, also known as Young QC, got arrested and charged for the murder of his mother, Yolanda Holmes. He got arrested along with 2 other people, Loriana Johnson, who was 23 at the time, she was the getaway driver in his homicide, and Eugene Spencer, 22 years old, who was the triggerman. He was the person who shot and killed Yolanda. Up until the point of this arrest right here, there were a couple things that he, Young QC, did that kind of made people look at him suspiciously. The first thing was this: during his mother's funeral, according to someone who was close to the family, Young QC seemed a little distant. His mind was apparently not all the way there. Young QC also didn't sit at the front row of the church near his mother's casket. On top of that, he also spent a big portion of the service hanging outside of the church. This, like expected, made a lot of family, friends, and relatives look at him twice because, after all, man, this was odd behavior. Only 1 week after his mother's death, Young QC, who was the sole beneficiary of his mother's assets, liquidated all of her bank accounts and collected more than $90,000 in cash. Now, keep in mind, this was merely a week after his mother's death. At this point, you should be grieving and not collecting all of her assets after you were seen being all distant at her funeral. So as far as the homicide in question, Young QC was the head honcho of this entire thing. He was the mastermind of this plot involving him and 2 other people. What exactly happened was this: Young QC had Loriana Johnson, the getaway driver, drive him to the block where his mother's apartment was located. He then ordered Eugene Spencer to go in. Eugene eventually went inside and shot and killed Yolanda Holmes while she was sleeping. Eugene shot Yolanda Holmes multiple times in the dome and stabbed her while he was at it. Yolanda's boyfriend, Curtis Wyatt, was present in that apartment sleeping himself, and as everything was going on, Curtis, of course, woke up and managed to fight Eugene out of the apartment. Eugene then ran out after that, but it was already unfortunately too late because Yolanda had already died. At the time of his arrest, according to the police, Young QC actually admitted to law enforcement that he did in fact plot against his mother for financial gain, but he also stated that it was supposed to be a robbery and that he never intended for her to die. However, Eugene, the trigger man, told a different story to investigators. According to him, he was allegedly offered $3,500 by Young QC to kill his mother, so the guy essentially hired a hitman to take out his own mother. In the end, Eugene Spencer was paid $70 by Young QC after he carried out this heinous crime. During his trial in 2019, the police played some interesting videos in court. One of them was a video of Young QC throwing a bunch of money in the air, and yes, that was the money he liquidated from his mother's bank accounts after he hired a hitman to kill her. So a lot of the stuff he did after his mother's death is what gave it away. Not only was he throwing all that money in the air looking all happy after his mother had just gotten killed, but his strange behavior at the funeral also gave it away. On top of that, Young QC also customized his Mustang with that money right after his mother's death. Also, he was seen holding up stacks of cash trash on his social media accounts shortly after his mother's murder. This was obviously not normal behavior, and the police knew that. During their investigation, police ended up recovering cell phone records from September 2nd, 2012, where it was revealed that young QC actually called Eugene, the trigger man, on a phone before, during, and after the murder of Yolanda Holmes. So this case was what we call a slam dunk. It did go cold for a long time because the police just couldn't seem to figure out what had happened. I mean, we're talking a local successful entrepreneur who was a mother. Who could possibly want to hurt her? In February 2020, young QC ended up getting sentenced to 99 years in prison for being the mastermind of this evil plot. Eugene Spencer, the trigger man, was sentenced to 100 years behind bars, and the getaway driver, Loriana Johnson, was sentenced to 14 years in prison. So talk about evil, man. This man literally put a hit on his own mother for some money. I want you to digest that for a second. You're supposed to die for the woman who birthed you, not take her out. Obviously, young QC had other things on his mind. The man was out here flexing the money he liquidated from his mother's bank accounts after he had her killed. Not sure what to make of this entire story. It's wicked in the worst ways. That's all. But yeah. Definitely a sick story. It's sad that her own son was plotting on his mother like this, so much to the point where he ordered a hitman to kill her while she was asleep. Anyway, do you have any thoughts on the story? The young QC story is almost a decade old at this point, but I still wanted to cover it. I bet you might have a thing or two to say about it. With that being said, definitely let me know in the comment section below, and like this video. Let's have a discussion about this.